Hi everyone. Welcome back to alkaline hydroxide 784. And this is the Project University series, the very first episode, which is an advice episode, the first advice episode. So, in this episode, I will be talking about how to choose your major, the factors that you consider when you choose your major. I have written a list down here, and as I go through each point, I will give my own explanation for why you should consider these factors. I will not be telling these factors in order of importance because the various factors can have different importance to different people. So just listen to each of them and then think about which factors you consider most important when you're choosing your major. Anyways, so the first one I'm going to talk about is your parents' wish, because not because it's like super important or something, but because it's the very first thing that you encounter when you decide to choose your major. Because for many of us from young, maybe your parents may want us to become to be in a certain occupation, or we may have told them that we wanted to be in this occupation and they thought, okay, let's just follow with that. So if your parents do have a certain wish of which occupation you want to be in, you can take that into consideration. Um, but at the same time, don't take it too much into your consideration, in my opinion, because even if your parents want you to do a certain profession, maybe to get enough money or for certain other reasons, there could be other ways to get that same amount of money or other ways to fulfill their interest. And at the end of the day, your own interests might triumph over your parents' interests. Of course, if you're unable to convince your parents or have problems in that sector, uh, I'm not exactly sure how to help, but you can come up with a convincing argument using the other factors that I put here. Maybe try to convince them. I think that's the easiest way to do it, or at least the most feasible way of doing it. Yeah. Okay, so maybe one way of doing it is to find a similar occupation or a similar track which still somewhat aligns with their interests but also aligns with your interests. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next factor because I can talk about those more easily. Yes, so the next very important factor, actually, this is very important, which is your interest. And this evolves over time, actually, because maybe when you're young you wanted to be a certain profession, but as you know, kids always keep changing what they want to do. I think you have heard that before, like you've seen kids who just keep changing. Like they want to be a doctor, then they suddenly want to be a scientist, then they suddenly want to be an astronaut or something like that. So if of course if you've noticed that your interest changed over time, don't worry about it. Don't think, oh no, I thought I wanted to be this when I was young, but it suddenly changed my interest. There could be certain reasons for it to change, and I would suggest that you follow what your most recent interest is, because as you grow up, you're more conscious of what you're getting into, and you're more likely to do actual research on the various careers and know what you're getting into, right? Um, so that's your interest, which may change over time. And when it comes to when it comes to your various interests, you can, if you have two or three instead of just one, you can sit down and then think about the pros and cons of pursuing either interest, or you can see which one you have the most interest in, which one you see yourself doing in the future. So yeah. And so the next point is your strengths and weaknesses, your fit to the course. Okay, so many a times there may be people who actually wanted to do a certain course, but when they actually apply with their A level results, they are not able to actually get into that course, and they end up getting a lower course. So in that sense, you must also judge beforehand whether you will be able to get into the course to begin with. Like you would definitely have a rough gauge of what results you may get during your A levels. because you know your study methods, you know your potential in the sense. And if you realize that your interests don't align with your strengths, you may have some trouble doing it in the future, or if you're not able to if you or if you feel like you may not get enough marks for it, then you can think of other options like overseas, which I will be talking about in the next video, the next advice video, I mean. So but actually the point that I truly wanted to get to here is not necessarily about the grades, but about your actual strengths and weaknesses. Like for example, let's say you're very interested in, I don't know, astrology, or wait, no, not astrology, astronomy, space stuff. Yeah, my astrophysics. Okay, so you like astrophysics a lot, and maybe you're in your club in school or something, and you go and look at stars or something. But it turns out that you're terrible at physics in JC, and the only topic you can do well is the one that's related to space, and all the other topics you're just meh. And maybe you find it easier to do humans or something like that. So in that case, you should really think whether you can actually work hard and still attain your goals in university, because if you work hard, eventually you may be able to do well in the subject maybe. And also see what are the certain subjects that are actually covered in university, because in JC you just cover a wide range of topics within that one science, like for example physics. But let's say if the physics you may need for astrophysics versus the physics you may need for engineering, they may differ quite a bit. And if it turns out that you're actually good at the stuff that's required for astrophysics, then just try your best in JC and try to get that grade and then get into that course, go ahead. But if it turns out you're not good at it either, so you should try to think of whether you will be able to be good at it eventually, whether you can work hard and do it. If you still have so much interest that it will motivate you to work hard, then go ahead. If you're not, but if you feel like you may not have enough interest to actually work hard, then rethink your choices, rethink what course you are truly willing to work hard for. So the next factor will be your style of learning. I'm not sure how to really explain this with regards to the majors, but different people have different ways to learn, and in the sense, some people prefer listening to someone talk in a lecture. I'm not gonna kid you. And there are some people who prefer reading it in the notes, and some people who prefer looking at videos or diagrams or something like that. So maybe there are certain majors in which certain kind of learning is done more than others. Like for example, if you're in medicine or law, you may need to read a lot more than maybe in another major. So if you're really really terrible at that kind of thing, and you think you hate having to read a lot of stuff or something, maybe certain majors may not be for you, the majors which require more reading. If you prefer hands-on things, maybe stuff that actually has labs like science or engineering, maybe more your style. So do take note of this as well when you're thinking about your major. So the next factor is what you're currently doing in school, either in JC or in poly or whatever. I don't know. But since I'm a JC student, I will tell it from the point of view of a JC student. Like for example, there are certain majors that require that you need to do physics, or you need to do chem bio, for example. So if your combination doesn't allow you to get into the major, then you're gonna have a hard time getting into it. So please do ensure that if you haven't entered JC or poly yet, please do take note of this in mind. For example, if you're really really sure that you're gonna do a certain major in university, do tailor your JC combination or your poly course to that major. If you're already in JC and you still haven't figured out what major you want, you can kind of narrow it down with using your combination. Maybe that may help. although it kind of removes a lot of opportunities that you could have had using a different combination. But the fact that you have a certain combination means that you're interested in those subjects, so it is actually a pretty good gauge of your interest after all, and you won't really be missing out on anything. So okay, so the next factor is where you can actually study the major, because for some there are many people who would want to study a certain major but it's not offered in the local scene, local universities, and it's only offered in some really niche university in some random part of the world. It doesn't have to be US, it can be maybe like for example hospitality in Switzerland. Like you want to study that but in that particular course, then you may have a hard time, and but if you're unable to actually pay for the course, then you had to settle for whatever course that you can get here related to hospitality. I think there are hospitality courses here, so I guess that's fine. But I mean I don't exactly know what to give as an example. Yeah, but you get the point. If you're thinking about this super niche major, then you may have a hard time getting into that particular course, so and you might need some backup majors or some other second choice, third choice when you're thinking about it. Okay, so the next factor is, you know, actually this isn't really like a factor but more like what you should do when you're thinking about this. As I've told all these previous factors, you should reflect on what you've done in your life, I guess your secondary school, your JC, your poly life. Think about what you've engaged in, which activities you enjoy the most, um, you know, what your interests are truly, whether you like for example you may think that you like a certain subject, but in reality when you actually go in and do something in that subject you find it really hard, or you find it quite not your interest after all. You know, you should reflect on what you've done throughout your schooling life, because they actually help you to, to truly decide what you want to do in university. And think about which events in school might have truly inspired you, or anything else that that may come up when you actually think about what you've done in school. That will definitely influence what you like, your choice or major in a way. And of course, if there's anything else that comes to your mind, do take note of it, like maybe the amount that you need to pay for the major, or other practical considerations that you need when you're choosing your major. And with all of these factors considered, just here's the final and most important thing to take note of, which is that the major should be somewhat connected to your career to a general extent at the very least. Even though today it is possible to do a major that is completely unrelated to your career, you should definitely try to have a general idea of what you want to do as your career. When you're actually thinking about your major, think about what you're going to do in the future, think about how exactly you want to use your university life in a sense. So like for example, if you want to do research in a particular topic, then of course you have to do that particular major. If you want to go and do an industrial job in a certain sector, you need to know which majors are favored in that sector, which ones are the most related to that sector. So I hope all these factors help you when you're thinking about your major, because I mean A levels isn't just about A levels. You should also think about what you're doing after A levels. And this is a good time to think about it, especially if you're in J2 already. You should start thinking about what you're gonna do in the future, and work toward the relevant things as well. And yeah, that's about it. And if you want to listen to my own experiences, you can watch the video that is blog one, or I don't know what I'm gonna actually name it, but the other first video that I will be uploading after this. Okay, thank you, and bye. I hope you subscribe to my channel, because if you want to, if you look forward to such videos, you can do that. And if you found this video very useful, you can press the like button and share it with your friends so that everyone can be a bit more clear about what they want to do in the future. Yeah. And yeah, that's it. Bye.